Welcome back, my friends, as we continue on our mission of forcing builds in Hyper Roll. Today, it's going to be my personal favorite build so far from this season, Syndicate Snipers. I've done a bunch of videos about it, but those are always cases where I had clear indications to go for it. So what happens if you just go, well, I'm gonna do it no matter what? But before we jump into the game, remember, this channel is about raising money for our son's middle and high school tuition. That's why it's called Mission for Tuition. Our kid has to go to a ridiculously expensive special school, and we use money from the views to help pay for it. There's no GoFundMe, there's no memberships, there's no donations, nothing like that. So like, comment, subscribe. It helps push the video out to more people, so it gets more views, more people see ads, and we make more money for tuition. So let's jump to the first augment, because it was an easy one. Back foot, we're doing a sniper build, so a lot of people are going to be in the back row, and this will speed their attack. But let's take a moment to go over exactly what makes up Syndicate Snipers. I mean, obviously it's Syndicates and Snipers, but there's usually a way to get to it. You're going to want to start with some combination of Darius, Caitlyn, Ashe, and then Zira, Zyra, whatever you want to call her, plant person, it's up to you. But those are generally your starting four that you want by 4-1, because that will give you your 2 snipers and your 3 syndicates. I think of Caitlyn as my item holder for Zeri, who can come in later, but if you end up with a sniper emblem, you're probably going to end up keeping Caitlyn, so I like to pick up a second 2-star to hang out on the bench so I can just replace items. And plant person might just be an item holder for Ahri later on, or might become part of the team if you have a chance of going to 7 Syndicate. And I was going to go with plant person throughout the rest of the video, but my wife heard me recording this and suggested Elvinra, so she will now be Elvinra going forward. Hopefully that satisfies everyone. For the rest of the team, you want to bring in Morgana and Braum as soon as you can get them. Morgana's going to sit right behind Darius and Braum, or either just Braum if you're pulling Darius out, and then of course your final snipers are going to be Misfortune and Jin. What combination you have is going to depend a lot on what augments you get. You might be going for 6 snipers, you might be going for 7 syndicates, you might be doing a 5 syndicate 4 sniper build. It all depends, and we'll see lots of combinations throughout these 5 games. I like to try to make items like Rageblade or Runan's Hurricane for Caitlyn, again she's holding for Zeri, and Spear of Sojin and Infinity Edge on Ashe, especially if I can combine it with the Last Whisper, so she's shredding lots of armor every time she does her ult, and she's doing her ult more often. This set of augments is really not friendly to our cause. We've got a lot of items on people, so makeshift armor is not going to work. Disintegrator is good, but not really great unless you're facing a lot of bruiser teams. I decided to go with cybernetic implants just because I already have items on 3 people, and it will help increase their attack and possibly make them more deadly, which is what I'm aiming for. Heading into round 7, you'll see why I like picking up a second Caitlyn. I get a Zeri, and I can immediately take that Caitlyn out, put Zeri in, put the other Caitlyn in, so that now I have the 4 snipers and Zeri with some items. The last augment is not a dream augment, but it's not too bad. Since the damage of my team is mostly coming from the back row, I can make those champions just a little tankier so that they can hold on longer and get more done. Any chance to make Zeri stronger, I'm going to take it, and if I can have Ashe attacking multiple targets, why not do that as well? I switch Caitlyn out for Jin since he's an overall better sniper than she is, but I'm keeping her just in case I get a sniper emblem at some point. And even though in this game I haven't gotten to the 5 syndicate yet, look how strong Zeri is once she has the items. This is against a team with a 2-star Kaisa, and we take them out of the game. This game remained very strong as we pulled Elvinra for Ahri and gave her a Rabadon's Death Cap, and we have Ashe completely loaded with items as well, and we're just 1 away from a 3-star gold. Zeri's been keeping us in, and that has been making everything more powerful. We picked up an Arcanist emblem, so that is going to make Ahri more powerful, and then we get the opportunity to grab a Spear of Sojin for Ahri so she can cast more often. Because even as a 1 cost, she's pretty strong and will wipe out a team, especially with the 5 Syndicate buff. So once you're there, and of course, when you get a 3-star Ashe, you're in really good shape. As we head into the fight against the obligatory Yordle team, I'm feeling pretty good about this. We have great items on our champions, we have a pretty good set. I've ended up with 5 snipers, which isn't really necessary, but since we have backfoot and phalanx, they're getting additional resistance, armor, and attack speed, so I don't mind keeping them there. After we finish off this pesky little Vex, who is just super tanky with that bodyguard emblem and does not want to go down easily, we will have wiped them out. Our ghost character finished off the other team, and we have 1 game and 1 first place. So far, Syndicate Snipers is looking pretty good. And for those curious, as we're climbing, the first place was equal to 120 points. Game 2 gave me a tough choice. True 2s could have given me a 2-star Ashe to begin with, but I felt like that was just too much of a risk to take early on, so I decided to go with the safe choice of Luden's Echo. My champions will be casting often, especially once I get Ashe and Elvira into it, and the Luden's Echo will be really helpful. By the time we're headed towards our second augment, the game is going better than the champions on the board would suggest, because I've only lost 2 matches despite not having an Ashe until now and only a Bronze Elvira in the back. I've been surviving off 2 2-star Dariuses up front, and I'm hoping I'm going to be able to take them to 3. So I'm really hoping that these augments are going to help. Nothing leaps, so I decide to go with the random chance involved with Tome of Traits, hoping that I can pick up either Syndicate or Sniper. And there's a Sniper emblem. So for now, Elvira is going to get to become our next Sniper, and we're able to put in Morgana so that we now have 4 Syndicates. And there is our gold Darius. As we head towards the final augment, the team is struggling a bit. We haven't been able to pick up that 5th Syndicate, so we're not getting the bonus across all of our Syndicate champions, which is absolutely key. These augments are not exactly what I would dream of. We're not facing a lot of high health teams, so Disintegrator doesn't really work. Binary Airdrop won't work because we're not doing a lot of dual items, so I decide to go with the Cybernetic Uplink so I can get the additional health and mana generation on the champions with items. Once we were able to get to the 5th Syndicate, the game turned around. We go ahead and switch out Elvira for an Ahri, because Ahri with a Sniper emblem is just really, really strong. Also, I'm holding at this point because I want to show you a trick that I use often. Whenever you get a Shroud of Stillness, wait for the next team to load in so you can find the best place to drop it so as to maximize the amount of damage you're going to do to their team. That was key in this case because that team was very strong, and hitting them with that Shroud of Stillness allowed us to stay alive against a team that was essentially stronger than us, and that victory ends up bringing us into the top 4. We finally get our Zeri, so we're able to swap the Caitlyn items over, but unfortunately we are stuck with a Bronze Ahri, and you're counting on her to be a lot of the damage at this point in the game. With the 5 Syndicate, she'd be getting Omnivamp, but this team was just a little bit too much to take, especially with Renata just pouring out damage, and as much as Ashe tried, she wasn't able to hold on, so Game 2 ends up in 3rd place. Game 3 surprises me with an interesting augment right from the start, a Syndicate augment, and since we're going Syndicate Snipers, I might as well pick up the Syndicate augment, especially since it comes with an Ashe. Now, while One for All is great as a Syndicate augment, it's not necessarily the strongest at the start, because you want to have more Syndicates on the board so that more and more power is being held to the last remaining Syndicate. But then came time for our second augment, and the game decided to reward me a little tiny bit more. The Syndicate Heart. So now I automatically go up to the 5 Syndicates and get an Elvira, so I can make her into a 2-star. By the time we're headed towards our third augment, I'm having a little bit of a champion problem, but luckily the really good augments are keeping us in it. We still don't have a 2-star Ashe at this point, but we're holding up towards the top of the health charts. The addition of a sniper crest along with an additional Ashe helps solve that problem. We can give the sniper emblem to Elvira. We have a backup on the bench for when we get the Ahri and can bring her in, and then we switch out Misfortune for Jhin because at 1 star, Jhin is going to be a little bit stronger. When I finally got my Ahri, I was in a difficult position. I was just 1 Elvira away from turning her into 3 stars. So I decided to wait and was rewarded with both a 3-star Darius and 3-star Elvira. So I'll keep her as my additional Syndicate for now. I can switch out Caitlyn for Zeri with these awesome items that are going to help her a ton, and I now have the 7 Syndicate 4 snipers. And if you happen to have watched any of my other videos on this build, you'll know once you get to 7 Syndicate, the game is pretty much over. I have actually yet to lose a match once I've hit the 7 Syndicate. I keep the 5 snipers in just because, why not? But I know at 7 Syndicate, Zeri is going to absolutely tear the other team apart. And you can see she is everywhere. The double Rage Blade and the Spear of Sojin is allowing her to cast more often, and she's just making this look easy. The interesting thing is the opponent is also running snipers with a gold Ashe and gold Caitlyn, but that is not going to stand up to the 7 Syndicate 2-star Zeri, and they just get put down, and Game 3 results in a 1st place. Grinding on to Game 4, and it decides, let's just make this easy. Here's a sniper emblem, it comes with an Ashe, we know what you're going to do, grab the Elvira, and you're good to go. And if you're comparing this to Innovator Clockwork in terms of start, the starts are not necessarily as strong or consistent as they were with Innovator Clockwork. We were routinely at 20 or 18 by this point in the match. Here, we very rarely end up at that high. These augments are not really exactly what we're looking for. So with this, I'll end up going with the healing augment rather than taking chances on getting random champions. While there could be an Ahri in there, there's a good chance there isn't going to be one, and I'd hate to waste that time doing that. So as we head into our 3rd augment, I've gotten an Ahri, and I decided to load her up with the Infinity Edge and Jeweled Gauntlet, since I was able to put together the Jeweled Gauntlet, and that combination on Ahri is pretty devastating. I have the Sniper Heart, so I'm able to get to the 6 snipers if I need it, but then the game gives me a really interesting choice. Would I want Sniper Crown and get 2 emblems and straight go to 6, or New Recruit and get an additional team size? I end up going for New Recruit simply because then I can have an additional member on the team. That might be a huge mistake, but I'm thinking at that point that I've already got a gold Caitlyn, who I'm not necessarily wanting to get rid of. I do want to bring Zeri into the match, and I'm still hoping to get a mana item on Ahri because that will make her infinitely more powerful. Now we've managed to carry ourselves into the top 4, but at this moment I'm regretting not picking up those sniper emblems when I could have, because I didn't end up getting a mana item for Ahri, and the sniper emblem would have made her infinitely more powerful. Having the additional member on the team has allowed me to keep Elvira in, but that's not really helping as much as I think having Ahri be more powerful would have. Although she did never get to 2 stars, I ended up trying to rely on Caitlyn to carry with the Deathblade since she was 3 stars, but it wasn't enough. Still, it was good enough for a third place finish after that other person ends up with less points than us. So, game 4, third place. Heading into game 5, I'm feeling really good about this build. Until I see these augments. Nothing really super friendly, but I'll take Thrill of the Hunt since that'll give me a little bit of burst healing, but 400 just is not that much, especially as you get into late game. As we're heading into augment number 2, things are really not going well. As you can see, I'm at the very bottom of the charts. I've had to use a second Caitlyn to fill in because I have not been able to get champions to help fill in where I need it. In previous games, I was able to use a second Darius to hold the front line. We get prismatic augments, but nothing really perfect. Phalanx 3 is likely my best option because it will make my backline tankier, but I'm still going to need a decent front line to pull this off, which means I'm ultimately looking for Braum to come in and save the day. As we're solidly in stage 6, I start feeling a little bit better about this team. I've managed to get up to 5 syndicates with an early Ahri who I was able to give a blue buff. Our Phalanx augment along with the syndicate buff is going to make these champions very, very tanky, and remember, they are also all getting Omnivamp, so they're healing almost as fast as damage can be done to them. And while things may look bleak at certain times, Ahri is strong enough to hold on and finish people off. We head into the final augment, and I think we're in really good shape, especially when I see One for All. This is going to make our syndicates even more powerful as some of the early ones die off, and if we can get to our 4th sniper, we will have completed everything we can do in this build. Having gotten Aniko's help, we're going to take Ahri up to 2 stars because she's going to be key, and then we want to give her any AP item we can. I decide to go with the Rage Blade just to speed up her attacks so she's casting more often, therefore getting more and more orbs out there. Usually I rely on my snipers to be the main damage, but in this case I saw the opportunity to have Ahri be my main damage, especially once I got the really good mana item for her and I knew she was going to be tanky in the backline. And as you can see, she is really, really strong. Now this is a game where I really thought I had it all figured out. I had my 4 snipers, I had my 5 syndicate, my weakness was my front line, which happened to get Zephyred, so everything was able to get into my back line for this match. And when you end up dealing with chemical challengers, once they're in the back line, you're in a lot of trouble. No matter how much tank the Phalanx added, it wasn't enough to keep us alive. And a game I really thought was going to be a 1st or 2nd ended up with a disappointing 7th place. So let's look at the scoreboard. Game 1, 1st place. Game 2, 3rd place. Game 3, back to 1st place. Game 4, 3rd place. And Game 5, where I really thought I had it all together and was going to win, 7th place, which tells you luck plays a huge part in this. But let's take 1 plus 3 plus 1 plus 3 plus 7, divide all of that by 5, and figure out our force score, which in this case is 3.0. That is the best force score we've gotten yet, and it tells me that this build is actually forceable. But what I found really strange is that when I got augments that pushed me in the direction where I would go Syndicate Snipers, I ended up with the 7th place finish. And when I got augments that wouldn't necessarily send me that way, I was easily able to get top 4. So luck is playing a huge role in this. But I still think this is a really, really solid build for climbing. It might get dicey at the higher levels because it doesn't feel as consistent as the innovators did, but still, I would not be afraid to use this one. Just make sure not to try to use Ahri as your carry. Maybe that's where I went wrong in the end. Anyway, leave comments below for builds you want me to do in the future. Hope you enjoyed the video and have an absolutely awesome day.